Hello and welcome to another Wednesday audio video with me, Harry Quinn. This time we're going to do another acoustics video. I'm just thinking to myself, how do I make myself more efficient? How do I make things sound better in this room? And low end is something that I need to deal with. The particular speakers, which I'll show you in a second, the Neumann KH80s are fantastic, but they, paired with the wall and what I've got behind it, there is a bit of a boost in the low end. I'll show you some measurements in a second, or a bit later on. But what I've got is some old staging, which are in box form, and I can turn them into the sort of similar boxes as you can sort of see dotted around this room. So I'm going to put some along the bottom here, just to remove some low end reflections back. I do have an issue with bouncing off the front wall. But we'll have to look at that, see how that goes later on. And then some more boxes in the other side, which is quite symmetrical to what you see here. So I've got my measurement mic, I've got a tape measure, I've got some gloves, I'm already covered in dust. So this is going to be the journey of making some more bass traps to see how the room response improves. Okay, and just for reference, this is what I'm looking at. So the KH80s, I do have the little mix cube, but that's sort of separate. And I've got these old hi-fi speakers, which actually the response that is measured is remarkably flat, but the detail isn't quite there in comparison. So I'm just trying to equalize between the two, make myself more efficient in this room. Right, so I'm going to do a quick measurement from the listening position, roughly equilateral. Well, I've actually used a tape measure, so we've got an equilateral triangle between the tweeters and this measurement mic here, and I'm going to do a quick test. Okay, so it's pretty flat in the top end, but then there's a noticeable jump at about 300 Hertz here, and there's an issue here. The issue here is probably because of the desk, but the overall increase is because of the speaker boundary interference, and then also at, what's this, about 60. This is one of the room modes in the room, combining with probably the port frequency, because this drop-off happens in a similar area. So I'm going to try and tackle from about 130. It might be a bit lower than that with the bigger boxes, but I've got 4 big boxes to put at the rear of the room, and I'm just going to do a quick test at that point to show you where the frequency response is being maximally increased at that particular area. Okay, so roughly in this part of the room is where I'm going to put the 2 boxes on either side behind me from the listening position point of view, and that's where the mic is. I'm going to do another sweep. So you can see that there's a bit of a build up between 80 and 50 Hertz here, and that's exactly what the boxes should do by experience. I haven't done the calculations yet, but they're quite large. They're about 40 by 40 centimeters and 75 long. Square boxes are more optimal, but that's what I've got at hand. Okay, so let's make the boxes. Okay, these are the boxes. Got some glue, tape measure. They do have these carry handles, which I'll have to remove and then cover over to make it airtight. So I'll probably just use some batten for that. I need to clean them up, get a hoover, use this brush. Then to make them more airtight, I've got some sealant, which I'll show you, and then I've got the front panels. Debating whether or not I should just screw them in as I've done before, as people have correctly put in the comments. It's better to not screw them and have them sort of floating but firmly pushed against with some sort of rubber as the interface between that and maybe some wood. So wood, rubber, and then panel to then just stick it on, because then there's less of a fixed position here, and these things can vibrate more and therefore reduce the energy of the sound in the room. So we'll see how my carpentry skills hold up and what I eventually do. Okay, so step 1, I'm just going to chop up these bits to fill in the holes from the handles.
Okay, so it's pretty rudimentary, just some glue and some drywall or plasterboard screws in the UK. And then in the corner there, you may not be able to see, there's a little gap, and that's present in a few of the other ones, so I'm going to fill that in. Okay, corked all the boxes, should be pretty airtight. Now I'm going to decide about the front panels. So I'm going to use this breather paper type stuff to contain the loose insulation, and then staple that onto the sides on the inside of the box. I was going to use some of this to try and do a seal, but I'm running out of time because it took so long, because I'm using some ancient cork. So I'm just going to go for it. Keep everything consistent with the rest of the room. May not be as efficient as the other stuff, but I know they work. So got some cutting for these 6 front panels. Okay, 3 boxes and then another 3 over here. Getting dark now, but thankfully stage lighting has come to the rescue. Lots of insulation covered with covered with the breather layer that's been stapled in, and I'm just now attaching the top here. Again, maybe not the most efficient design, but let's see how it does in the room. Long day, but we have 6 boxes in the room. Gonna place the big ones side by side, bottom here, 2 there, and then 2 over there, and then the smaller ones underneath the first reflection points here. Okay, in situ, over there and over there, already got stuff on them. Corner ones here, below the first reflection points, and general stuff, and then the other ones over there. So let's do a test. Okay, so I've done a test. Where it was earlier is in red, and where it is now is in the purple. So I've got about a 3 dB alleviation of some issues. Pretty delirious at this point. Been doing this for many hours, and this is a result. So RT60 comparison of that. So the purple is definitely flatter. It's reduced some of the ringing in the sort of 50 hertz area, and then this slightly woofy area here has also been reduced. So definitely a result. Again, some better construction methods could be used, but yeah, this is what the room looks like at the moment, with the Neumanns. More experimentation and more speaker setups I feel coming, but this is what it looks like at the moment. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you next week for another Wednesday audio video. Hope this was useful. Thanks.